Hi there, Kimberly Flanagan of Kimberly's Quilts. I was very fortunate to be asked to be a Island Batik 2025 ambassador, and I have thoroughly enjoyed that program. And I think the thing that I've enjoyed the most about it is it's really stretched my limits of creativity and made me try things that I never would have tried before. I've tried funky friends. I never would have thought to make a little stuffed animal type critter, and that was something new and different to me. In a couple months, I'm going to be doing a bag by Annie, which I've never done a bag before. I've been more of a traditional quilter and stuck to that type of project. I've tried techniques that I've not tried before, and this is one of them. As an upcoming challenge, we are challenged to make a crazy quilt. Aurifil is one of our generous sponsors of the Ambassador program. So I've got a variety of threads from Aurifil that I'm going to showcase and do that by doing a crazy quilt. Not a quilt type that I ever would have considered making before. It's just never been my thing. But I've just figured out how to make a crazy quilt my thing. So I decided to use Embrilliance to digitize. I'm going to do mine in the hoop. I'm not going to do it traditional at my sewing machine. I have one of those high-dollar sewing machines like a lot of you do with the gazillion decorative stitches that we don't use a fraction of. And I decided I was going to actually use the Motifs with an Embrilliance and do my blocks in the hoop and then have my quilt being in the hoop type project. First of all, I've never done a crazy quilt, never had to do all of those decorative stitches on my machines, but I decided that this would give me an opportunity to learn more about Embrilliance and how it works. I'm going to use my scan and cut. You can use any fabric cutter to cut out the pieces so that I'm not going to be doing the traditional stitch and flip and trim technique. But I'm going to be using Embrilliance. I'm going to be using scan and cut. You can use a Cricut or a Silhouette. I just happen to own the scan and cut. And you can also, and then I'm going to do it on an embroidery machine. I'm going to try it both on my 10 needle and on my domestic machine to see what the difference is. But I've spent a lot of time last night figuring out and laying out how to create the block in Embrilliance. So I decided I was going to make a series of videos here. The first one is going to be how I set it up and did it all in Embrilliance. The second one's going to be how did I create my cut files and everything and scan and cut so that or in Canvas Workspace so that I can put it on the scan and cut. The next part is going to be, I'm going to do a video about how I cut them out, and then I'll do another video about actually stitching it out so that you can see that process. After I got this all set up last night, I decided I really think that I have the center block in each of these crazy quilt blocks that it could use a little pizzazz. And so what I did is I went on Designs by Juju and I found a set of designs, and I'm going to actually stitch out an embroidery design within my crazy block to give it a little more interest and also to be able to showcase those Aurifil threads. So I'm going to share my screen. This is going to be the first video in a series. I'm going to share my screen here and I'm going to be sharing Embrilliance, and let's get into how I actually set this up within Embrilliance to be able to become an embroidery file for me. Okay, first thing, I'm going to move this way out of the way over here so I'm not taking up real estate. Put my glasses on. Now, as you can see, I have a blank square here. What I did to start with is I came in and I went within Stitch Artist and I used the shape tool. I want to actually create a square to be the boundaries of my block. So I just came in here and I created a square, and then I came in here and I said, I want the finished block size to be 10 inches. So I'm going to make it 10.5. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to unlock the the little size thing so that it's no longer keeping it proportionate because I want this to be a square, the 10.5. Now I have a perfect square here on my screen. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to center that so that it's just, I'm a little OCD about things like that. So now I have the boundaries of my block. Then I just came in here and I started randomly drawing the lines. I decided that I first wanted to make sure that I had a center focal block on here. So what I did is I came back into Stitch Artist and I remembered that there was this nice little polygon. And so I came in here and I drew one of those. I am going to come in here and I am going to change the colors of these to black so that you can actually see them. So here's my boundaries. Here's my center polygon. Now I actually came in here and before I continued, I actually shaped this up a little bit and said, where do I want it to be? What size exactly do I want it to be? I wanted it to be a little bit taller than I did wider. And then I want to come in here and I also wanted to make sure that this was centered in my hoop. So now my square and my polygon is centered. Now I can come in here and start adding all of my, what I'm going to call pieces. So I'm going to come over here. And the first thing is I go back into Stitch Artist and I'm going to start drawing the lines. So I come in here and I holding down the control key because I do not want a curve or a cusp. I want all straight lines. I'm going to hit the draw point with points. You see that it's turned to a square. So that means I'm going to draw straight lines. And I'm going to come here and I'm just going to make my first square. I left click so that that now gets turned off. Now what I did is I zoomed in and I moved this over. What I'm going to start doing is moving these points to make sure that I want this to overlap that polygon. First thing I'm going to do is overlap this line. By just fine tuning and adjusting these points. And as you can see, this is going to be a little bit of trial and error to get everything lined up. It's now become one line. Not quite. When I zoom in, you can see it's not quite. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move this one out slightly. I'm also going to, now that that's become one line, I'm going to start making sure that this point is both on the vertical up and down line and this diagonal line. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to scroll in over here and check this out as well. That's pretty close. It's not exactly lined up at the top, so let me move that up. As they overlap, you'll see it becomes a darker solid line. Now I have my first object that's going to accent this polygon in the middle. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a second one. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to come over here and get my draw with points again. I'm going to hold down my control key because I want it to be, and this time, and you can do these wherever you want them to be. Again, I need to make sure that I have the entire outside of the block defined because I need to create a cut file from this. So now I can, oops, undo that last one. Don't need that last one. So let's come back and do that again. Holding down the control key, I'm going to go point, 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 point. And I'm just making odd shapes here to accent my crazy quilt. Left click, now I've got my next spot there. Now again, I'm going to come in, making sure that that one's selected, and I'm going to make sure that these points are lining up over top. I'm going to come in here and align that one a little bit better. Align. I'm going to move this one out so that I can work at these individually. That one's now lined up. Now I can bring this one back in. And let's go down here and check this one and see, make sure it's not white. So let's just fine tune that one a little bit. Now I'm going to scroll over and see here, just slightly off. Now I have my second component done. So where do I want to do my third? Again, all personal preference. You can do wherever you'd like and make as many or as few of these blocks as you would, sections as you would like. So let's come do our third. I'm going to come in here and maybe do here to here, to my corner, to this corner, to that corner, to here, and close it up. Left click. Now again, I'm going to come in and I'm going to fine tune these and get these lined up directly on that. Move that one out of the way. And as you see, when all three of these lines overlap, it becomes a big solid line for you. In case you're wondering, the reason why I do the entire outside edge is, remember, I'm going to create a cut file from this. So I need all of the boundaries of where that cut file is going to be in order for me to actually have a closed shape to cut. Come in here and zoom in a little bit. This corner appears to be slightly off, going at the diagonal there. This one needs to come up slightly. Now it all seems to overlap. Now this gives me this last shape. But again, I need to create a cut file. So I do need to come over here and define the boundaries of that last shape, even though on our screen it appears as though we have one. So again, I'm going to do a line drawing. I want it to be straight lines, so I'm holding down my control key and I'm going to, again, select my boundaries. I try to make it close, but if it's not close, that's okay, because again, we're going to go in and fine tune it and make sure that we line up these lines. Left click or right click on my mouse so that I can finish with that. I'm going to scroll over here and zoom in, and again, I'm going to line up all these lines so that I can have one line appearing. It's appearing as though it's one line, so that I have nice adjoining pieces when I cut this out. Now let's go in down here. This actually looks pretty good over here. So I now have all of the sections of my crazy quilt block. Bring it back in here so you can see it. Now what I did next is I said, okay, here's all of my sections. I need to go in and I'm going to convert all of these to not the block, not the long, the square, but my others, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come in here and convert these to an applique stitch. But what I selected here is I select none. I do not want the blanket or the E-stitch or any of that. I just want the boundaries. So now when I go look at this, instead of having the applique position and then the stitch out, I'm only having the position. That's all I want. So I'm going to use this when I eventually get to my machine to create my stitch lines, my positioning. And also I'm going to use this same line to create my cut file. So I'm going to come in here and change all of these colors, only so we can see it. I'm going to come in here and change all of these, let's say to red. Okay, so now you can see them a little bit better. Now I'm going to come in here, and the next thing that I did is I started a new design down here. This is going to be my step 2 down here in my objects pane. This is where I got to come in and start defining my motif stitches that are now, once I get this placed, is going to go over top of it. So I started with my center. I came in here again using the draw tool, and I'm drawing straight lines. So I'm going to hit draw, and I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to start in my center. And I'm going to do my points here. I'm going to right click on my mouse, and if you come over here, I'm going to now change my color here, let's say to green. I just want to make sure that these are all different colors so that I can see them easily and uniquely. Ooh, let's see. Let's make it an olive green color. Mineral green. Okay, so now when I've got this line, I'm going to come in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to define this as this button right here in Stitch Artist is a motif run. Before I click that and select my motif, I'm going to first come here and I'm going to make sure that these are lined up over top of where I have these lines, because this is actually going to stitch out and be part of the Crazy Quilt thread showcase. So I want to make sure that this is stitching out over top of where these pieces of fabric are going to come together. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make sure this point lines up. Move it down a little bit so I can zoom in. You can see there when it comes over top of everything that it becomes almost one line. Let's see, I'm not quite lined up in this corner. So that looks pretty good to me. Oh, this corner maybe not. Let's line this one up a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to come in here now that I have this lined up. I want to pick my the motif here. And I'm going to, at this point, come in, and if I use this little button here, it will open up all of these motif options for me. I have a variety of them. I may have more than you do, because in the Embrilliance software, under a lot of the projects, they have free motifs a lot of times in there that you can download and add to your library, and I've done that. So if I have ones that you don't, go back to your Embrilliance website and see what you can find. Let's see, I think I like this little flower. I'm going to make this a little, I want this to be a somewhat feminine type quilt. Once you see the fabric, you'll see why. But I'm going to choose this design. So when I double click on it, you'll see that it adds it here. It tells me here what my height, my width, what my gap is, and all of that. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is here. But if you want to change any of that, if you want to make it taller, if you want to make it wider, you want to make sure that, say you've got a really narrow one and you're not sure that it's going to stitch over where the two pieces of fabric come together, you can adjust these right there. So that one is now defined as a motif. Next one I need to come back and design is I need to come in and I'm gonna leave this one for last. Let's start over here to the right. The next one I'm gonna define is right here. I'm gonna hit the line, hold down my control key, and I'm gonna go from here to here. I do not need to do the entire boundary of this piece because this is going to be in my seam when I put this up against something else. This is the only part of this block that I want this decorative stitch to be on. Remember, I just did the decorative stitch around my entire polygon. I'm going to make that the showcase of my crazy quilt block. So I want that stitching to all be the same. So I only have this one small stitch. Let me come in here and make sure that we have it lined up. I'm going to come in here and say there. And this corner looks pretty close. Now I'm going to come in again. I'm going to define this as a motif. But I don't want all of these to be the same. So let's see, maybe I'm going to choose this one now. Double click on it. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to highlight the first one and hit this minus sign. I want it to go away. So now I have my second motif defined. Now let's do the same thing over here. Remember, I'm showcasing the thread and I'm showcasing all of the fun motif stitches that I have either built into my machine or in this case, available to me in Embrilliance. So again, let's do this one. I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to go from this corner to this corner. Right click on my mouse. Again, we're going to zoom in here, make sure we're lined up. And because this is going to stitch out, that looks pretty good. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change this again to a motif. Let's come in here and find another one. Let's see. I kind of like these little hearts, but let's see what else we got available to us in one of these. Let's just check out some of these other ones. Sorry if the scrolling. Let's try this little guy. All this looks like a butterfly. And I'm going to remove this one. Again, looking at the height and width. That's okay, I think. You know, I think that's going to be good for me. Now I'm going to come in here and let's scroll out and let's do the last one because the last one is a little bit unique here. Let's look at this one before I draw it out. If we remember, I already have a decorative stitch right here. So I need to define this in such a way that I am not then stitching another decorative stitch over it. So this is actually going to be created in two sections. Come in here and I'm going to do my line drawing and it's going to be a straight line. So again, holding down control, I'm going to hit there and I want it to stop here because this is already going to be stitched with something else and I do not want to overlap it. Right click on my mouse. Let's scroll in here and see if we're lined up. We're going to line up. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to define this as a motif. And let's see which one we're going to choose now because I want them all to be different. You could actually do this that they're all the same decorative stitch. Let's see. These are a little bit thicker than what I want. Don't really want it to be just a bunch of thick knots. So let's come over here. I'm going to go back and get that little heart that I liked. I'm going to add this one, and I'm going to take this one off. So now I have one last section I have to do, which is this little piece here. I want this to be as if it's one continuous line. So I'm going to actually come in here and do my line again, hold down the control button, and create the last little section of this one. Let's line these up. On both ends. Now I'm going to come in, do this as a motif. And if you see here, it's already got that heart as its pattern because it inherits the one from the last time we used that motif button. So now this will stitch out hearts, stop, and then go up here and finish stitching out hearts. So now I think I've got this laid out pretty quickly and pretty easily so that I have my applique and the applique placement lines here, which I'll create my cut files from. Then I also have here my motif files. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say File, Save Stitch and Working File. And I'm going to come in here and say, I'm going to call this Zoom, because I'm recording this on Zoom, Crazy Quilt Block. If you see here, you'll see that I've already got 11 of the blocks laid out for my quilt. So I don't want to overwrite any of those. So I'm going to call this Crazy Quilt Block 1. Now, what I did at this point is I took this entire block, I hold down the Shift key and select everything. And I did a Control C to copy it. And then I did a Control N because I want a new page. And I did a Control V. Why am I doing this? Because I am going to put a different design in each one of these centers. You could do this once and just use this to do your placement lines and everything and bring your embroidery design in at your embroidery machine if you would like, that's fine. But what I did is I came over here and I created lots of blocks, just doing Control N for new page and Control V for paste. So then what I came back here and I went on to Designs by Juju. Go to any one of your favorite embroidery sites. They had this really cute set of, I'm going to find them over here. They are in my Juju embroidery designs, and don't judge me for the number of designs I have. I know I have a problem. But I found these cute little mason jars that I thought were just adorable. I have a Baby Lock Solaris, so it's a PES format. And I brought in this little 4x4 design. And as you see, there's multiple. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of them. So I came in and I brought this in, highlighted it over in my objects pane, the entire thing, did a Control C, brought it back over here and did a Control V. And then I can line this up in here wherever I want. And now I have block 1 defined. Okay, you can see here that I have my hearts. Let's get zoom in so you can see this. I have my center polygon. I have my little X's. I don't know what to call these on the right. And then down here, I have this little shape that I selected. And over here, I have my hearts and then my other hearts. Now, this is all personal preference, guys. You can pick whatever motifs you like. You can have both of these different. You can spread these out a little bit. If I'm being totally honest, I think I might want those spread out a little bit more. So, you know, I could come in here and redo this one and mess with the gap and you know, see what I wanted to do there. But if I come in here and I select Stitch Artist and Motif, it brings up the motif properties. I can make these a little bit wider and see what's going to happen. And if I turn Stitch Artist off, I think I like that a little bit better. It didn't look as busy to me. But I think I also want it to be a little bit taller. So let me go back in here. And in my height, I'm going to make it 5.8. Let's see what happens. My turn Stitch Artist off. I think I actually like that better. It's not as busy and it will showcase not only the design, but also the thread. Let me come down here to the bottom and I'm now going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go into Stitch Artist and I'm going to mess with my width a little bit. I'm going to make them a little bit wider. And I'm going to make them a little bit taller. Now when I turn off Stitch Artist, yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. So there you have it, guys. That's what it's going to stitch out and look like. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say File, Save, because I've already saved this once. And now I can take this directly to my machine and it's going to, if I look at this, it's going to stitch down my outside boundary. It's going to then create my applique placement lines because all 5 of these are my applique placement lines. Then it will give me the opportunity to put my fabric in place, and I'm going to put all of it in place unlike a traditional applique. Because I want this decorative stitch to then stitch over it, I'll take my hoop out, put my fabrics down, and then I will put it back in and let these motif stitches then do its job to stitch it all in place. Then I'm going to last have my center section of my mason jar. I was asked by somebody I was talking to last night when I was just having a mental check of, do you think I'm doing this okay? They asked me, why didn't I stitch this out up here before I did all of my motifs? And let me just tell you, again, this is all personal preference. My thought process was, I want this to all be nice and secure in the hoop. If I were to, in my mind, and I could be wrong, wouldn't be the first time, if I were to have come in here and put this piece down and not had the motif stitched out yet, just put this down, I'm not really sure. Will this pull up a little bit and shrink up and cause these to not be on top of each other when they stitch out? I wanted to make sure that this entire 10.5-inch block was complete before I started doing anything that might alter the fabric and what I'm going to call the draw up on it. So that's why I did it the way I did it. If you would prefer to stitch it out first, that's fine. I chose not to, but that's totally up to you. Next thing I did is I went through here and on each one of these other ones, I came in and I did my own little different design. As you saw, I had 6 of them. So I made 6 different blocks here. And so each of my crazy quilts will be slightly different. I hope that really showed you how quick and easy you can set up a block within Embrilliance to do a crazy quilt and how really quick and easy that was. I'm going to do a next video. The next video will be, how did I take these applique cut pieces, export them to a cut file format to then pull into my Canvas workspace. Again, you can do that in Cricut or Silhouette. It can be any cutting machine. It doesn't have to be Scan and Cut. I have a Scan and Cut. I'm going to show you how to do that and how to then pull it into your cutting machine software. In my case, it'll be Canvas Workspace to actually create your cut files and what I did there. Thank you.